to what when you leave the confines of the developed towns and cities, the military does a lot, from education to medical to civic in the villages. Where you have a battalion, for instance, in a village, a good number of the local community attend the command secondary schools in the barrack.
I attended Army Children's School.
Good. They attend to the medical facilities in the barrack. The local battalion there does bridge reconstruction, culvert, even provision of water.
But beyond the barracks, we're looking at beyond the barracks.
Yes.
In conflict-prone areas, how do you deepen your connection to the people? Such that, the confidence, because the issue we have now is that there's a bit of, nose diving, of public confidence in the role of our security.
It's not nose diving. You see, a key part of our mandate now is protection of vulnerable communities, which is where you're going.
Yes.
Yes. So what we do first is all the local units around there, they map all the vulnerable communities within their AOR using several criteria, maybe the location, the terrain, the nature of threat that is being faced. Now, after doing that mapping, they try as much as possible to interface the opinion leaders within those communities and also interface the locals through several means like town hall meetings, encouraging them to get involved in activities that bring different communities together as a way of engaging these communities and ensuring that they believe in the ability of the military. Now, even the tasks that is being performed, some are so rudimentary, like farm security. In several parts of the country, troops still escort communities to go to farm, to harvest, and to come back. But people wouldn't know that, particularly where there are communal farms. The armed forces does that.
People don't know.
Yes.
And
so
what
that's
going on. You don't evaluate.
Yes.
If I may chip in.
Yes, please.
So coming from the media perspective, and of course entertainment, the creative space, I think that one of the issues that we have is that our security apparatus really have not utilized the creative industry in sending these messages
I was
out.
going to hit at that.
Because I mean it's laudable what they are doing with the communities, but that is just a tiny minute idea. Imagine if I did a whole military movie, or let's say the Samanjas with then, the drama series Samanja. That was another way of showing how the military interrelated with civilians.
Absolutely.
And it helped in giving the perspective about how we shouldn't fear the army, but we should be their friends. These are things that are lacking today. I mean, as a filmmaker, if I wanted to do a film about the military, I know that they have the civil military department.
Yes.
How accessible are they? How do we even know who is in charge? These are the things that we need to. I give you an example. A movie on YouTube from Nigeria gets about 25 million views in 6 months. Imagine if the army develop a drama series or do a movie and put up in those platforms where Nigerians, they get to see how the military, all of this, it could be a documentary, it could be. So what I'm even saying is that you guys are doing amazing work and we applaud you for that. But like you rightly said, these are things that we do not know about because we are not out there. You need to engage us because we're here. I'm selling myself now. So.
Yes, the military, all those opportunities for what you've just said, is there, it's open. Now, it is now for the movie industries. First, they need to ask themselves, how can I support the military?
Exactly.
Every part of the society, every segment should be able to ask themselves, how can I encourage the soldiers? And when you ask yourself that question, you can be able to agree that, okay, yes, we can do some movies to portray what the armed forces is doing. And then the military will gladly direct you to which part of the military.
Contributed a lot to this. The military overstayed at the stage, and Nigerians were saying they should go back to the barracks. Now, it's not like we have a DAC, where you have a government, that civilian military. So, in order, for us to be saying this, we must be conscious about it. It was our history that everybody was saying military go back. Military has put to barracks now. But for what we're saying now, we're not still asking them what is their role now in a civilian dispensation.
No, we should be clear about this. Comrade, we're asking them not to relax, not to over-relax in the barracks.
Okay.
But to also
now when you do a film bringing them up, playing up their role again, all of you will start protesting again, they should go to the barracks. So I want us to be conscious about this.
Thank you. Thank you for that point that you raised. Thank you, Cynthia. We'll come back to you. Fisayo is already waiting to take it up from here. Fisayo, I don't know, you heard what Dimba said about taking up movie, or would you want to take up the challenge from His Royal Highness?
All right, well, I appreciate the conversations so far over there. Of course, we'll say the Nigerian journey of 65 years, the hills and the valleys and the challenges, is not fiction. It's actually what is happening and playing out right about now. So we must confront it frontally. Prof is here. Prof, let's, you have heard what robust conversation, even from Port Harcourt. It has been an issue of what can we do better. In the junctions that we have seen in different administrative cycles, sometimes we took the wrong step, and perhaps that has slowed our journey to progress and the dreams of the founders of the nation, that struggle. Now, you've heard from people perhaps who lived at the time, and some of us who, read those things play out, from the pages of history books. But today, there is an opportunity for those who are here. How do we begin to retrace our steps in terms of some of the missteps we have taken, so that the disillusionment that seemed to have echoed a little bit from Cynthia's submission in terms of nationhood, perhaps for the younger generation as well, who feel a bit, there is a disconnect between them and, the system in general. How do we begin to get their buy-in in the Nigerian project?
Well, first, if we are speaking of retracing our steps, we must find out which steps are wrong so that we don't retrace the good ones as well. I'll come to Cynthia's point, but I'd like to begin, from the tail of the conversation from Claire's team. And by making a few, if you like, declarative statements, they can be contested later. Statement number one: it is not the job of the military to maintain civilian community life. The army is trained to apply maximum force at any point in time is called to act, because his business is to take away and take out the highest level of aggression against the integrity and sovereignty of the state. That's why you find that you do not see large prisons the size of NTA military establishments have a guard room. If you misbehave, somebody deals with you. The army in full professional engagement does not shoot to injure you. It has no space to carry dead bodies. It's to take you out. Now, if there's confusion, there's insecurity, and the army intervenes, after that, the army and similar military services get out of the place. It's the business of the civilian leadership to maintain, a life and community life. Now the military intervenes, takes out bandits and whatever you choose to call them, and life does not return in the community. You have a local government chairman you never see. He gets 200 every month. There's nothing going on. the place is fallow. Security deteriorates, not because of any other thing, but that there's no engagement. So most of the time we are blaming the army wrongly in such circumstances. The second point is that when we call for movies, 2004, I took the Nigerian movie industry to the 2004 New York Film Festival, and we were there for 10 days. Watch an American script that's supposed to be pushing patriotism. You find small elements of state efficiency scripted into it. You're having a party, a bit of burglary wants to occur. Within 20 to 90 seconds, the police turns up. Is that how it works? If it's how it works, how come you have sometimes up to 2,000 murders in New York? Killings. So let us also get all of that in context. That yes, it's important to take advantage of that industry. It's an industry that has come under my direct supervision and that is not being maximally utilized. That's a fact we must put on the table and look for how to do it. But when you produce, say, a movie on the good things the army is doing, I'm a professional communicator. You must ask yourself, why should anybody sit down to watch a movie of 1.5 hours? It will only be nice stories about the army. So it's to make it organic and part of the life we are living. So I thought I should throw in that point in response to it. Because, look, the military is most of the time being blamed for what is the result of incompetent civilian leadership. Just like you find that at the state level, if something goes wrong in my village or your village, you see, I told you that this federal government is useless. Please, what has federal government to do with me when I have a ward chairman, a council chairman, a local government chairman, and a governor? That's the level of political illiteracy we are facing. And so rather than address issues and contact people we elected, well, we didn't elect some of them. I mean, somebody gives you 10,000 to vote for him. He doesn't need to come back to you until after 4 years. And the reason is simple. He has paid you up front for 4 years at the rate of 2,005 a year. So don't complain. Now, back to the substantive issue. Yes.
Doc, please, I need you to... No. I need you to exhaust this. Okay. Because we seem to have, moved away from some of our priorities originally, especially when we transited into democratic rule. And it has now become something of a career or an opportunity for wealth that seem to have, distorted our thoughts. Even issues that we continue to talk about, the early years of Nigeria. It was about ideology. You knew the action group, you knew NEPU, you knew NCNC, you knew all these, political contraptions. We read about them. And their stance in terms of how they wanted Nigeria to develop. Sharply different, but still towards development. But they had their own, but what we see today is the blurry lines. So the communication, sometimes, I used to crack a joke I think it was, 2003. We had a political leader in our state that we didn't know, it was until it comes back to the local government that he will show us the logo of who to vote for. Because he would have crossed parties somewhere in Lagos or Abuja, and then will come and tell us which party is now in vogue. So it seems as if, in terms of our stance as a people, even in terms of our political maturity, we seem to have distorted the process. Perhaps the good guys are, they have made it so unattractive for some of the guys who would have wanted to be a part of the process. That is one part. But now let's, start again, because you have cleared the deck on some of the issues that you wanted to, jump into on the panel. We spoke about mistakes, but we also spoke about some resilience that we have showed in terms of our democratic struggle. Today, what are the group practices that we may perhaps hold on to, but in terms of immediacy, what are the ones we need to issue, especially in terms of this democratic governance?
No, in terms of what needs to happen immediately, we say we have bad leaders. And I agree. If you compare the leaders with the likes of Sir Ahmadu Bello, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Zeke, Emayo Bara, Tafawa Balewa, Tarka and Co. But the question is also, what type of followers do we have today? Fisayo, if you're made a minister today, and as a friend of yours, I come to meet you 4 months after you're sworn in and say, oh boy, I'm trying to put something into my business. I need 15 million. If you give me the 15 million, I'll thank you and go. I won't ask you where you got it from. If I come and you don't give it to me, I'll go and tell our mutual friends that Fisayo is useless. True or false, everybody, viewers? It's the truth. So what kind of followers do we also have today? But going back to those leaders, you use the word correctly, ideology. They were godfathers, and a godfather's business is to nurture an ideological godson. That's why in religion, in Catholicism, if I'm your godfather, I have responsibility for ensuring that you grow up as a true believer, as a responsible Catholic. So if your behavior is becoming funny, your parents will report me, and I could come to the house and flog you. Now, that's what the Ahmadu Bellos and co were doing. This young man, he looks dependable. Let's watch him closely. Probably in the next 5 or 6 years, he will be the party secretary. So that's the same godfatherism. To produce those who will retain the trajectory of goodness about leadership, if we discover he lacks personal discipline, we downgrade him. If we discover he doesn't manage resources well, we downgrade him. If we discover he drinks too much, we downgrade him. Today, we still have godfathers, but what you have actually are people who have held public office and who replace themselves with others, so that those they've put in place, they will use the hand of their new people to be stealing from the common till. That's all. So what are the things that need to change? Values reorientation. And when I say values reorientation, I'm not talking about the preachment where you come on TV, people will dress green, white, green, and wave flags. That's the external expression of patriotism. The internal expression is the existence of structures that give you incentive to act well. Now, begin with the political parties. And I like the expression you used at the early part of you when you wanted to ask you. You said blurring of lines. If today there's rigging of elections, we blame INEC, we blame the army, we blame the police and DSS. It is not the job of INEC to secure an electoral space. INEC is to ensure that materials for elections take place. Service providers for this include the military, the security agencies, and more importantly, the local communities. That's number one. Number two, at the level of political education, it's the job of political parties to educate their members. You gave the example of when you go, it was on the day of voting. So these were really not party members, they are procured voters. What point am I making? And I've made this before, and I have had course in the past to develop this as a program to be executed by a political party. Every political party should endeavor that it has a rally at least once every quarter in different local governments. That is where members meet. That's where they know their local government chairman. That's where they meet. You even make provision for them to do a little stealing, if you like that mischievous expression. Organize, okay, for this, you are going to have 4. So 6 local governments together in one location. Now, that is political education. So when I'm speaking of reorientation, that's the sort of thing I mean. That to have a party means to get members, believers in a certain ideology, who will then become the check when you get into office. We voted, what is this one? This is not what we agreed. Now, that's not happening. So whereas we can blame those in power, we can blame Tinubu, we can blame any governor, anybody we like, the foundational material for creating social stability, political literacy, and leadership efficiency will keep going under. The final note on that is that we are talking about fighting corruption. There's nothing wrong with it. We are talking about good leadership. That's very good. But the point is, we forget that the most central element to public administration and leadership is service delivery. Service delivery. Here is a cup. It carries NTA logo. It's a tea cup. I've made a wonderful cup for you, and I say, oh, if he wants to drink tea, this is the best cup in this world. I didn't provide any tea. So we are celebrating infrastructure rather than service delivery. And when I speak of infrastructure, most of the time is actually funding. Oh, do you know that my state governor spent so and so amount on this and that? I'm not asking you how much he spent. What's the impact on lives? So you see that the whole mental network has to be completely reconfigured for leadership. So the challenges are diverse. At the immediate level, and I'm trying to take as many issues as quickly as possible. Somebody mentioned Nigeria Youth Council. Yes. When people who are between 35 and 45, some of them 50, are the leaders of youth, then they must be descended from Methuselah. When we speak of youth, and the youths, those who are making the most noise about it, do not make a distinction between ideological age and biological age. I may be 25, but more of a rogue than those who are holding Nigeria down. That distinction is important. I may be 70, yet I'm mentally young enough to be up to speed on everything going on now, and that's in the interest of this generation. That's also not happening. So I also believe at the level of young people, there has to be some degree of self-education and wider enlightenment, particularly among those who say they're activists and who are relatively younger biologically, to know that it is not correct to say that it's their turn. It is correct to say that it is their turn, the turn of those among them who are competent to lead, who understand 21st century standards of leadership and who are committed to driving it. That way they will begin even among themselves to do some winnowing. Those are the issues on the table. And finally, to cap up this question, for another I think you're ready to ask, the question of amalgamation 2014, 1914 and the rest of it. Amalgamation was the uniting of the administrative structures of the British. Before then, Nigerians were interacting with clear understanding among themselves along economic and cultural lines. The only time a conflict arose, one of the few times conflict arose between quote-unquote North and South, if you remember, the Shagamu Kola North was bought from the Southwest, but when some people indicated interest in also owning trees instead of just buying it, there was trouble. Now, what am I leading up to? They created Nigeria, but not Nigerians. The process of uniting the two was to create Nigerians. Everybody was doing well until you say, okay, all of you are together. Now, by saying you're together, you're also going to need new administrative structures. Now, who will occupy the administrative structures? Led to me wanting it to be either me or my brother, and you wanting the same. What we've been doing since that amalgamation is to manage and get to the point where there will be unity of purpose, of focus, and a sense of oneness that transcends the ethnic issues. So those are some of the issues to put on a table on a day like this, so that we don't do one of two things. Either going away very excited, oh, Nigeria is, we're 25, we're doing very well, we have a large population. A large population does not translate into anything positive if most of them are hungry or sick.
It could even become an albatross.
It could become a complete liability. But the other point to make is that even if for now it's a liability, so bloody what? Face your liabilities. The problems are not coming from the moon. The bad leaders you're having, are you not clapping for them? Are they not getting chieftaincy titles? Are they not taking front row in the churches? How many of you in the church are protesting? How many in the community are saying, oh, we know this man is not good, he doesn't deserve the title. So let us not outsource a problem that's the crisis of collective consciousness that has withdrawn. But the other solid point to make and insist upon is that also leadership is critical. Leadership signaling. When you don't reward the right people as a leader, even those who are not ready to be of good behavior will become afraid of misbehaving.
Prof, you have completely stacked the deck with so many things. There's the concept, there's your analysis of the actualities, and a little bit of fantasy as well, because we always hope for the best in the country like this, because the realities on ground may look a little bit, difficult, but the mountain is not too high for us to climb, as we saw in